I mic'd up? Yes. All right. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm going to sit, you don't mind. I've just gone through 2 days of grueling school presentations to all your middle schoolers out here. So I'm worn out. I'm on the last leg, but I couldn't miss the opportunity to come and talk to some parents because parents are hard to get in a room. So thank you for being here and hope we share some stuff. So what we're going to do, we have Tyler's Light's been in business, we'll call it, for 7 years, trying to stay on the front end, the education and awareness, we'll call it prevention, of this opiate epidemic, okay? And we picked a spot and said, you know, we can't cure all of this, so let's find a spot where we can make an impact. And we thought going into our schools with captive audiences, large audiences, we can get them to think a little bit differently about prescription pills, illegal drugs, stuff like that. So we created some videos to help assist because young people, we had to teach like they learn. They watch videos all the time, short 2-3 minute type stuff, and talk to them, again, like they learn. Short intervals. They have very short attention spans as opposed to walking in and just blasting them with a bunch of information that they've already heard and they would turn you off automatically. So we have a pretty impactful presentation. What I'm going to do, if Terry's up she is my Vanna White today. So we have been trying to get this to play. We'll see if it plays. This is a video just shows what is Tyler's Light, why did you get started, and what do you do. So we're going to dim some lights. It's got some audio to it, huh?
Medications are pretty pervasive in the community, and most of us have some in our drug cabinets at home. Prescription opiates are very addicting, and they actually change the brain chemistry. When you don't have it, the brain feels like you need to have it. The fact is that addiction overtakes your personality. You know, you become the addiction.
My name is Wayne Campbell, and Tyler Campbell is my son. Tyler's Light was formed because of a tragedy that happened in our family. Our oldest son was prescribed prescription pills because of surgery, and then it resulted in an addiction and soon led to heroin and a fatal overdose.
We're doing news stories all the time about overdosing and kids being arrested. It's an eye-opening statistic that I don't think a lot of people are aware of.
We're not going to arrest our way out of this problem. This isn't a law enforcement problem as much as it is a community problem.
To date, the drug addict is the kid that I see walking down the hall, or it's the adult that's at the grocery store that passes me and says hi, or it's the person at church sitting next to me. So it's not a school issue, it's definitely a community issue.
I don't think parents understand how quickly young people have access to drugs and alcohol, and it can be delivered to you. It comes in all different forms today. You can even order it on the internet, and that's baffling.
She smoked heroin the first time, and it just gripped her immediately. This was not a legacy that she wanted or I wanted for her, but if we can help another family and save a life, then I believe that's my journey now.
Tyler's Light's main focus is to educate our youth and community through live presentations. We are a community-based, nonprofit organization made up of a few hundred volunteers dedicated to making a difference.
I think the mission of Tyler's Light is so vital to the success of young people in recovery because they truly have a whole community behind them.
The biggest reason that I'm a part of Tyler's Light is to change what people think the face of a heroin addict is and to help make people aware.
Organizations, including Tyler's Light, who are giving information to people. They're showing up, having these programs available free of charge.
I think as business leaders, owners, and operators, we do have an obligation to get involved, educate the youth.
Our students need to hear a message that says, if you use, this is what could happen to you. This is what you're going to put your family through.
You know, I'm one of the lucky parents because my son's still alive. If you're burying your head in the sand, you're just setting yourself up and your child up for failure.
Being honest with them and talking about it and the reality that you can die from this, it's very important that they have those conversations.
You can help your community by supporting Tyler's Light through contributions, being a sponsor, volunteering your time, or referring us to schools, businesses, churches, so we can do our live presentation. In the short amount of time since Tyler's Light was formed, we've spoken to students, parents, people in the community. And through our research, we found that we are making a difference. You can turn like half, there you go. Half of them, you don't need to have all. That's good right there. We're probably good. We'll keep that on. So I didn't prompt you, I should have, to be prepared when that video came on, because in blue, in writing, there were 5 critical statistics that we were going to go over. Anybody remember any of those you saw in blue when the video started? Let's check some adult memories here. For Ohio, we are from Ohio. We are the worst state in the country. We average losing 14 people per day. That's a ton. We've been recently passed. We're in second place now. We're happy. We didn't get better. We just got worse, a little bit slower than the state of Pennsylvania. So, Kentucky, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio. That region has been impacted severely, but it's kind of on its way here. You have some of the leading indicators. One is babies being born with neonatal something syndrome. They're born addicted. That's one of the first signs it's coming your way. So, do you remember any of those statistics at all there? Juvenile court cases. Juvenile court cases, yes. 85% of them or juvenile ones, are drug related. That's a lot. So you're thinking how it bogs down court system. That's just under 18. Then when you go to adult court, it's probably that much or higher. Again, I'm sharing with stuff that's outside of Kingsport, Tennessee, so you have an idea going, it's not just us. How about ER visits? Remember that one? Number one reason for ER visits in the United States is drug-related incidents. That will shock you. You would think it's something else. Car accidents, I don't know, just getting sick. It is, it's drug-related incidents. Now, a car crash, a breaking and entering, right? Anything of these could be drug-related because how did that start? So that's being very impactful there. How about that addiction is more prevalent in our society than cancer, HIV, Alzheimer's, AIDS, all that. We've all been involved with, we all know somebody that has cancer. We've lost them to cancer. We've been involved in what's called a pink ribbon race, right? You've raised funds for it. I get all that. But why aren't we having, we'll call it the yellow young sticker race, right? Or 5K or whatever it might be. Because addiction is much bigger. Between 30 and 40 million people in the U.S. with some type of addiction, about 10% seek help. Why is that? Because of the stigma attached to it. We think it's a moral failure. We think it's a character flaw. Use an example. If you sent your child to the doctor and there's something wrong, wasn't acting right, no matter what age, and they come out and they got a big C on their forehead. They got cancer. You talk about that. At lunch with your friends, you would, go seek help. You would probably volunteer for the next pink ribbon race. But if they went there and they came out, the doctor had a little assessment, and they have an A on their forehead, they have an addiction. You think you'd talk about it with your friends at lunch? Nope. You wouldn't say anything. You probably have them comb their hair down, put a hat on, do something, cover that up, because we don't handle addiction well. It is a chronic, relapsing brain disease. It is no different than anything we get physically, but for years and years and years, how we get there is why we want to talk about it. If you're experimental, if you're a teenager and you experiment with drugs, is that normal? Absolutely, it's normal. The teenage brain is built to take risks. So up until they're 24, 25, they'll make a decision. So how do some, if they experiment with drugs, alcohol, whatever it may be, some move on with their life and become productive and good citizens. Some become addicted and then lead a difficult life. Why is that? Well, it's the chemical makeup of our brain. This whole addiction thing is kind of simple. It's almost mathematical. We wish nobody ever tries. But 25% of us are already pre-built, predetermined, pre-wired. We become easily addicted to something. So what do we cross paths with? When did we experiment? The younger you try drugs or exposed to, let's say opiates for having your wisdom teeth removed, you have a high risk. Kids that are ADD, ADHD, anxiety, depression, all these things that we medicate them for, we are now putting them at a higher risk because we're exposing them to narcotics and opiates and prescription pills that are addictive. So that makes it difficult on them. And now, what's going to happen the rest of their life. So again, we picked this spot of trying to educate our youth. In that video, there was a police officer, Columbus. He's actually the narcotics commander. He has 80 people under that he supervises that go out and try to find bad guys that move, drugs. Well, he has a 10-year opiate addict at home. How about that? This happens to judges' kids a lot. It happens to, politicians. It happens to doctors. Kids don't feel like, why did that happen to me? Well, it's just, again, physiological. You were predetermined. Just bad thing you cross paths with it. There is a young man in there at the end, if you remember, it said Miles. He said, why are you a part of Top? I want to change what people's perception is of a heroin user, heroin addict. Miles spoke with me in front of thousands of high schoolers, middle schoolers through the years, and Miles, unfortunately, relapsed about a month or two ago, and we lost him. So that was a heartbreaker. Anytime we lose somebody, it's a heartbreaker. But, he had such an upbeat outlook, and he was doing so well, and he just had a relapse. And when you relapse with opiates, heroin, prescription pain medication, it's a very tricky situation because your tolerance drops to 0 when you abstain, when you are clean for a while, and then you go back and use. You have a high risk because your body's not ready for that amount of products to use. So it's tricky. They go back and say, well, I'll use this much, and it doesn't work out. Especially if they're by themselves. You hope that they're not by themselves. Help them. But so that just tells you a little bit about what Tyler's Light's done. I have spoken to every child, every student in this county from grade 7 on up in the last probably 9 months. So I've been busy. How did they find Tyler's Light? A book called Dreamland. Anybody ever heard of that one? No? I'll pull it out now and just show you what the front cover looks like. For those of you that like to read, or if you don't like to read, get that book. It's a shocker. You'll be in awe of how this epidemic started. It actually started in southern Ohio about 20 years ago. The author, Sam Quinones, is a writer for the LA Times. He's a beat, like a crime reporter. And he was trying to figure out how black tar heroin crossed the Mississippi and came into Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, Tennessee, all that stuff. And he couldn't figure it out for the longest time, so he shows up in Ohio in 2012. We had just lost our son, and so we just kind of teamed up, and he said, get me in front of parents who have addicted children, parents who have lost somebody to this particular epidemic, and I would. And then finally I sent him to Portsmouth, Ohio to talk to a guy who runs a recovery center. And then he said, you know what, he did this for 9 months. He said, I figured it out, how black tar heroin made it. And so basically it was a prescription pill industry. We started to treat everybody's pain, over-treat it. We started giving out Percocet, Vicodin, Oxycontin like it was candy. Whatever happened to you, you got a triple dose. And that started kind of an opiate epidemic. Heroin just so happened to move this way, and they complement each other. So if you know anything about it, all these narcotics, Percocet, Vicodin, Oxycontin, and so forth, they are identical to heroin. That's why people return to heroin, because it's a cheaper alternative. Pills are very expensive. Once you have an opiate addiction, it's very, very hard to shake. So that's kind of what happens. It's almost a natural path. So Sam wrote about it. It started in Southern Ohio near Ashland, Kentucky / West Virginia. So that's the where this thing came from. And again, you don't have it really bad here yet. You may think you do, but you know, Pennsylvania 15 a day, Ohio 14 a day. You guys are like 4 or 5 a day, which seems high, right, for your population. But you got to put the guards up and start to work now, or you're going to look like we do in a matter of time. I'm going to play, or Terry's going to play something else. We have testimonials that we show to kids, and I show these ones to adults sometimes. Young people in recovery tell parents, how did you get started? Now, how did you get on this path? Next one is Emily. And the time she did this video, she was college age or a little bit past. So, if you're ready, Terry.
I graduated in 2008 from Pickerington North. In high school, I was the fun, outgoing, energetic. You know, I like to have fun with my friends, party, and, you know, do what typical high school students do. Drugs came into my life after I went to college. I got severely depressed while I was there. It was fall quarter. It was everything that I just didn't expect that. I wanted to leave, this wasn't for me, and threatened to kill myself. You know, I said, this isn't it, this isn't what I want to do. You know, these drugs were put right in front of my face, and I thought, this is going to make all my worries go away. I won't have to think about anything, you know. My depression, you know, my family, my friends, like, it literally erased everything from me. Lost all feelings, lost all hope, and it just spiraled out of control. And it was seriously in a blink of an eye. I forgot about everything, everything. There was just nothing that mattered to me anymore. And what I lost the most was myself. You know, I stopped caring about myself. And it's because I was under the influence of those drugs. They took away a sense of hope. I mean, drugs literally block your mind from everything. I could not make any type of rational decision under the influence. If it wasn't for my parents and friends, I would not be here today. Because my parents, you know, found out what was going on. They had no idea, no idea. My friends told me, like, we will tell your parents, we are going to tell your parents, and I just begged them, don't tell my parents, I'll get clean, don't tell them. I didn't care if anyone else knew. I just did not want my parents to know. My best friend spoke up, told their mom, my friend told her mom, because of her, I'm here today, you know, and because my friend spoke up and wanted to say, like, this isn't Emily, this isn't who she is, this isn't what she should be doing, you know, we want her back at school with us, having fun, enjoying life, and, you know, I wasn't at the point, and the fact that they spoke up and told somebody is what truly pulled me away from the situation. There are signs you have to look at. You know, pupils is one. I mean, my mom still today is like, what's going on with your eyes, you know? Just your emotions, the way that you talk, the way that you present yourself. I became so aggressive. I just would snap at my mom, like, no, shut up, you know? And she just thought that was just, you know, hormones or, you know, just going through your whatever, you know, being a girl, arguing with your parents. But the case was that I was high or I was waiting to get high. That's all you cared about. Parents should be thinking about who their children are hanging out with, for one, what type of environment they're at, and there are signs and signals to look for. I mean, I went to a cookout and had bruises on my arms. My mom said, what happened? Oh, I got hit with a baseball. Okay, no, because we wouldn't think you were ever doing that. So for parents, they need to just be aware that it can happen to anyone. You would never think it would, but it really can. It can be any person.
Is that those voices lagging behind the... I'm looking here from the side, I went, I wonder if that's just my angle. It is, huh? And that's on a thumb drive. Kind of odd, but you can understand just by listening to it. Close your eyes, I guess. So Emily is just a person in our community that has been clean probably, I don't know, 7, 8 years now. But she just talks to parents, since we've got a room full of parents, on, you know, how she got started with this whole thing. Again, testimonials, kids would rather hear that than have some dad talk to them. And our particular situation, and you saw a little bit about it at the beginning, but this was our oldest son that started Tyler's life from, and he was a college athlete, and he got prescribed Vicodin, shoulder surgery, very normal, 19, 20 years old, and soon after, it was 60 doses of Vicodin, which is, now I look back, that's a lot. Now the state of Ohio, CDC, says, hey, people under 18 shouldn't be exposed to those more than 3 days. Adults, not more than 7 days. But we're given, at the time, 19-year-olds 60 doses of synthetic heroin. That's basically what it was. So that created our situation. And people like Emily, you know, she's telling you, hey, you got kids, you're just thinking, but if you're in this room, this may be a little bit different. You're either in here because you have a loved one that has an addiction, right? Or you've lost somebody to this epidemic. And that's probably the only two ways you'd be in this room, am I correct? Anybody outside of that? You're just here because I'm curious. So that's okay. So, you know, with Emily, she just tells you a little bit about how she got started. It was real simple. She just, you know, didn't want to be in college. Kids go through a lot of stress. This next video of Terry's Ready is one I showed. I don't show that one to students, but this next one is I show in schools all the time. This is a current list of what are the top 6 reasons why does our youth try drugs and alcohol now as opposed to when we were kids. So things have changed. I mean, technology's changed. So watch these 6 reasons, and Terry, when it comes to a list, we're going to have you pause, okay? And I'll wave to you. We'll just pause it.
Teens try drugs for the first time for any number of reasons. Here are the top. Number 6, rebellion. Teens can feel trapped by parental pressures. Some teens may rebel from overprotective parents. Rather than talking to their parents about their frustrations, they act out. Oftentimes, angry teens try alcohol or marijuana to rebel. Number 5, curiosity or boredom. Teens may seek new thrills and experiences. And with adolescence may come more freedom from parents. So teens may try drugs because they're bored or curious and looking for new ways to entertain themselves. Number 4, emotional problems. 39% of teens experience some form of emotional problem. Those suffering from depression, ADD, ADHD, or anxiety disorders are at a higher risk for finding relief through drugs. Number 3, appeal. Teens watch a lot of movies and TV which depict drug and alcohol use often. Music videos show the use of drugs and alcohol every 14 minutes. This abundance of substance abuse can give the illusion of instant gratification and quick happiness. Number 2, to escape problems. Today's teens are faced with many challenges. Problems at home, problems at school, financial struggles, relationship issues, stress. Drug use may be a form of self-medicating to ease the pains of these struggles and to provide a temporary numbing. Number 1, peer pressure. No one wants to be made fun of. To fit in and be accepted, teens may do what others do, like experimenting with drugs. If you or someone you know is struggling with any of these issues, remember to speak up. It may just save a life.
Pause there. So we'll leave this light the way it is right here. So we go over this, no matter what part of the country I'm in, and we'll say, hey, listen, I didn't grow up in Kingsport, didn't raise kids here, so does this fit your community? And it depends on what age group you're talking to, what high school, and they will start moving things around. They'll say, Mr. Campbell, number 6 needs to go to number 1. They'll say rebellion. That's the main factor. We try drugs or alcohol. Really? That's cool. I mean, the reason. So this is your opinion. A lot of kids will hit on, in the rural areas, number 5. Mr. Campbell, it's boring out here. They give you that. And I go through a couple of scenarios. Well, if it gets really, really boring, you have nowhere to volunteer. You can't go clean your room, your parents' car, clean the garage out. If you run absolutely out of things to do, call me. I'll leave my cell phone with the principal, and I'll have you do about 1 million different things as opposed to try drugs. And they start laughing. They realize it's kind of silly to get bored and say, all right, I'm going to try drugs. Emotional problems, number 4. Every group hits on that. You know why? It said 39% of them could easily be taking medication legally for ADD, ADHD, anxiety, depression. Now, why is that different? For me, mid-50s. I went to high school and college, never met one person in my life that took medication for any of those. Now, it might be my age. So I then start talking to teachers when I go to school. Sometimes they'll say, hey, we'll have, whatever they call it, professional day, and I'll talk to 200-300 teachers at a time, and I'll ask them, I say, maybe I was isolated in Eastern Ohio. How many people do you go to school with that took medication for those reasons? Just some young teachers in their 20s, they'll go, well, I did. And maybe like 10 people in a room. So I realized something happened in the last 10, 15 years. We really, really medicate our youth. Now, good, bad, or indifferent. Technology's gotten better, medicine has gotten better, but I think we sometimes will use that as an excuse. Kid's rambunctious. Maybe he's not interested in science. Maybe that science teacher is boring, right? The subject matter, whatever that might be. They just can't sit still. Well, you better put them on their ADD. Really? Give them something they're interested in. You watch how they focus in. So that could be a problem. But we medicate a lot of our kids. With that, that's not bad for that child. If he needs it to help him focus in, or his anxiety, depression, whatever it is, the problem is they share their pharmaceutical drugs. You have to understand that. You can ask any junior high group, any high school, and this college, it's a no-brainer, though everybody does it in college, that middle school and high school will share like Adderall and Ritalin, ADD medication, to help a friend study, which kind of blows you away, and the teachers are like, are you kidding me? No, it's very common. But it doesn't make any sense. It's a felony by law, right? To share pharmaceutical drugs that have your name on it. So once you tell them that, they go, really? I didn't know that. So they think they're helping somebody. But they don't know that the brain chemistry is different in that person next to you you're sharing with. They could become schizophrenic, suicidal, all these things that can have an adverse effect. But they don't know because they're teenagers. They just, hey, I take this, helps me focus. It'd probably do the same for you. So very, very common. My youngest son now is a sophomore in college. He goes, Dad, not some people, everybody uses it in college. Isn't that crazy? I think University of Georgia, I'm a big sports nut, but Sports Illustrated had an article that they're like the best in the country at tennis. Have been for years. Okay, big deal. I don't follow tennis, but They just got reprimanded. Their coach and some parents were involved. They used Adderall as like a training drug. You kidding me? College kids, not with a prescription. Just, hey, we're going to help you. Isn't that crazy that we can get to that point? So, appeal, obviously the videos, and they say, well, it's rap videos. I said, well, think about country music videos. They drink a lot. They wreck the tractor, wreck the truck, right? It doesn't matter what kind of music, hard rock, there's drugs and alcohol usually infused in there, so it makes the appeal look good. Escaping problems, number 2. Our youth now seem very stressed. They will tell you, they'll raise their hand. 60-70% of every room I talk to, and I talk to 500,000 at a time, that they'll say we're stressed. And a lot of the reasons come from technology, and we'll go over it in a second, but they're stressed out. That video said, you got financial problems, you got girlfriend, boyfriend, parent problems, whatever it might be, grades, school, but they'll self-medicate. If you have pain, you want to, get that stuff away from you. You want to just leave Earth. So technology is a huge part of it, and it goes into number 1, too, peer pressure. The funny part of that is peer pressure was the main reason 30 years ago when their parents were in school and 60 years ago when their grandparents were in school. That has never changed. But how they do it has changed. We used to just, I'd tell you, you'd tell him, and we want to talk about that guy. By the time I got to him, it might be a day or 2 or a week, and who cares? By the time I got there, it changed anyhow. They have that tool, that phone, that they can reach out and they can change somebody's day, ruin somebody's day in a click of a button, or they can make somebody's day in a click of a button. But that piece of technology also causes a lot of their stress that goes with number 2. When they leave school, so if you have children, young ones, try to remove the phone from them as often as possible. Watch how they act. Like, they're addicted to the phone. There was a youth pastor somewhere, and I listened to him, and he had this sermon about the phone. And won't go into details, but when we all went to school, and when school was over, at the end of that day, you ran to the school bus, you ran to your car, you ran to practice, whatever it was, and you left the pressure cooker of school. School was tough then, too. We pack people into buildings, 20, 30 in a room. A teacher's trying to teach you together. Well, not everybody, conforms, so people are talking and doing whatever. So it's tough to do that, and it's a pressure cooker. When we left the school that day, we left it behind. We didn't get on the phone and call into the school to see what's going on. It was over. Weekends, 2 days off. You felt really good, and in the summer, you felt great. These kids never leave that feeling. That phone, like the 3 junior highs today, was real funny. They have the no phone rule. These are junior highs. Can't have it in school. And I said, okay. Start the presentation. Teachers, everybody close their eyes, put your head down like you're bowing your head. Just close your eyes for a second. They did. I said, all right, students, pull your phones out, take a picture of something. I have a banner, a social media banner. I want them to take a picture. About 40% of them had their phones. They're not supposed to have phones on them. And I thought that was kind of funny. I went, are you kidding me? And everybody's laughing. I went, so you see, they can't. It drives them crazy. So they took a picture of it, and we moved on. And for them, so as soon as school is over, they got it on. They're on the bus. They're all walking to their, wherever, and they fall off curbs sometimes. They got to have it. Am I relevant today? Who followed me? Who did this? Who did that? And then they, keep these things, and they don't sleep much either because they get them things on them. They'll fall asleep with them on their chest. Weekends, they never leave school. That phone is with them, and they're communicating constantly. And then in the summer, it's like they never left. So they've added undue pressure, but the people who make the phones and the software that goes with them, they've created that problem. They want our children and us to be addicted to phones. And I watch 60 Minutes all the time, and you may have seen this episode, but they talked to one of the engineers, and they blacked his face out and his voice, and because he left that company, and they said, no, our job was to addict you to it. So the guy doing the interview, I forget his name, his phone is by his foot, and he said, you're right. I've been interviewing you. I'm keeping eye focus. My phone has been buzzing. It's driving me crazy. I can't wait to look at it to see who it is. And he'd been interviewing for like 5 minutes. So do you see what it's done? but it causes a lot of problems in 1 and 2, our technology. And kids, you know, they'll self-medicate. I have heard many kids say, and especially my sophomore in college, he had the bejesus scared out of him. He was in 8th grade when we lost Tyler. Tyler to him was a rock star. They're 10 years apart, so he got to go to these really cool stadiums, Ohio State, Penn State, and Wisconsin, watch him play football because he was young. So for him to lose him, that was just like it blew him up. He slept with us for a year. You know, you're 13, 14 years old, you sleep with mom or dad, but he was just scared. You know, you don't want to lose anybody else. And so for him, he tells me a lot. He doesn't give me names, but he says, Dad, kids don't like just drinking that we used to do. That was kind of your experimental stage. Because they don't do that anymore. It's just pharmaceutical drugs. Isn't that something? It's a different world. We have to know it's a different world, so that's how we can react to it. And marijuana and drinking, they still think are the 2 gateway drugs, but to me, the abundance of prescription drugs available, it's easy to get to it. They can just go to a medicine cabinet as opposed to call somebody, have somebody that's 21 years old buy alcohol. Remember how hard that was? And then get it to you somehow. That's a lot of work. Heck with that. We'll go find a medicine cabinet and grab a pill bottle. They don't care what it is. Mix them together and go. So it's something to think about when you're dealing with children, talking to children. This next video is a message to parents. We made, I don't know, a year ago or so. So it's parents telling you, hey, here's some things to look for. Maybe, you know, you should try this. Go ahead and play that, Terry. Tyler's Light is a group of volunteers with the idea that we need to educate that our medicine cabinets are very dangerous, illegal, legal drugs are everywhere. In our situation with Tyler, yes, we probably had more trust. I don't think than most parents, but we had a lot of trust in him. Oldest child, never had an incident before. Extremely smart, extremely sociable.
Benny had just turned 18 that year. So he had just graduated from high school, had a life before him.
He had a great job. He was the sales leader for his company. He had a beautiful girlfriend, and he had a baby on the way.
He was on a golf and academic scholarship at Walsh University. Pretty solid athlete, graduated magna cum laude from Lake High School in 2009. Broke his right arm 4 times and had 2 surgeries on his right elbow. The first at age 11 and the second surgery at age 18. And he got addicted to the opiate pain medicine, which led him to heroin.
When Kristen was using, she was just a totally different person. She didn't want to talk to you. She'd want to hole up in a room.
He became very secretive, and he became pretty deviant, dressing messy, and didn't really take as good care of himself as he used to.
The little things of not totally being themselves, withdrawing from their friends, not having the same enthusiasm and excitement for life that they once had.
Aloofness, he never wanted to hang out with the family much anymore. He became isolated. He changed from this group of friends on the team to this group of friends. And he always had great answers, and they fit, and it fit for us. That's what we wanted to hear.
If you're hearing what you want to hear, but you think maybe there's a chance there's something else going on, check it out. Go. Do what you need to do for the safety of your loved one and your family.
Don't be in denial. Address it immediately. Because if you would have said that my daughter would have ever put a needle in her arm or her neck, I would have said, not my Marin.
You know, as a parent, you would have never convinced me this would have happened to us or our family. But with the overprescribing of opiate pain medicines, there's no doubt in my mind that's what's led to the heroin epidemic. If your son or daughter gets injured, make sure you ask tons of questions as it relates to the pain medicine and opiates.
It's a disease. It's no different than heart diseases, liver, kidney disease, blood disorders. Same thing, but we look at it in society as that's a choice, but it's really not.
Parents, you just have to have the courage to fight through that. One of the ways to get that courage is to seek out help, seek out advice from those of us that have gone through this, organizations that are there for you and provide you with that help.
We really encourage people to speak up. It doesn't matter if within your family unit, if it needs to be done at school, at your place of employment, wherever. But speak up, because that's the only way somebody's gonna get help, and this issue will be exposed. No. So that's and again, we chose a spot out in front of this epidemic, meaning education, awareness, prevention. Okay. So if you got a loved one that has an addiction, you're already past the stage of prevention, right? What are we going to do? Well, professional treatment is really the only way. And treatment doesn't mean 30 days. 30 days in is really nothing. You kind of get sober, you get a little cleaned up, and then you get exposed right back to your home environment, and it starts again. If you have somebody that you're working with, and you wonder why they've relapsed so many times, they keep coming home and they just go back. Well, there are triggers at home. We call them a deja vu. Sometimes you'll hear a song, it'll take you back to a time, right? Or you'll see a car drive by and it just takes you back. Well, for them, a recovering addict, it's a very strong urge. They'll see a street corner, they'll see another place, or maybe hear something, a phone number, all of a sudden, whoa. It takes them back, and it's a physical reaction, not just, hey, that was a cool song, or, you can remember the smells or something of that time. So, as you've heard, they ask you to change people, places, and things. Hard to do when they're in their 20s, sometimes 30s. People make careers all over the country. Being home, you love to have them home, but until they're healthy, home's not a good place. Really, there's a bunch of different theories on this, and you'll hear say, no, you don't have to leave home. Well, you keep banging into the same places, and they can't shake it. It's like just a dirty shirt that get thrown in the laundry and can't shake it. So try to figure out a way to get them away. When you look at treatment options, most addictions need inpatient at first. Inpatient means you stay there at least 30 days, 60 days, whatever your insurance can tolerate. If you don't have insurance that can cover them, or they're past they're past 26 years old, they're no longer on yours, that's a tough one. Medicaid actually pays well. Pays for 3 months of inpatient treatment. It's good stuff. The most successful treatment options, oddly enough, that we're here in a church, is faith-based. Why? A couple of different reasons, I think. Long term, when you call a faith-based program, they're going to tell you, you sign up for 9 to 12 months. And that's about what you need just to have a chance. You get to year 1, 12 months of not using, you now have increased your odds like 50%. You're now at this, hey, that's pretty good. They say, neurologists say 2 years of not using, your brain starts to come back to normal. Again, it's been changed, altered, chemically altered. Not your personality, your brain's been changed. There's a reward center in there that's been exposed. That feeling of drugs really takes over. And not to get too clinical, but our brains, we're the only ones that have this, have something called a prefrontal cortex. You ever heard that term? It's this piece up front. We make decisions with it, okay? We're the only mammals that can do that. We make our decisions on past experiences, some other things, and we rationalize. Well, in the middle of our brain is this limbic system thing. It is the basic necessities of life. We have this natural urge too. It's food, water, shelter, right? Those simple things. For some reason, recreation, sex is in there. But when an addiction starts, it hangs on, it clicks on to that part of the brain. Having that drug, that feeling, that reward is just as strong or stronger than food, water, shelter. Make sense? The prefrontal cortex part can't rationalize. It went blowing right past it. So when you look at a person with addiction going, why can't you just stop? I said it about 1,000,000 times. Tyler, I'm yelling at him, why don't you just stop? Couldn't. They're looking right at you like a blank look. They're trying. Can't physically do it. So you get to a 2-year period when then all of a sudden the chemical makeup starts to change. Then they have a chance. That's a long time, isn't it, for somebody not to use? And I know, tons of you have gone through probably relapse after relapse. I've met people that have relapsed 17 times, 2 sisters. So mom's got 2 sisters, 2 daughters, and then her son was a college football player recently, playing for the University of Cincinnati. Life's good. Hey, 3 kids, 1 out of 3. Just found out he now is an opiate addict. Genetics have something to play with this too. Look back in your family tree, you'll find addictions. That usually, if you have 2 parents that have it in their family, you've just increased the odds of yours having one too. She's fine. She's just getting some energy out. So just some things to think about. And again, different treatment options. There's things you can pay for. There are people, and I've met some crazy things, people that pay $50,000 per month. Imagine that. Like, what the heck is that? Send them away to wilderness programs out in Utah and California. Wealthy, wealthy people. Does that ensure success? No. Higher success. So whatever you can afford to pay for, find long-term rehabilitation programs for them. Faith-based, but again, they're all over the country. There's the Teen Challenge, which sounds like it's for teens, but it's not. It's for adults. And different ones, but they need to go away from your area. If you really want to help them, you got to kind of give them a push to get involved in one of these. And in faith also, I think, when you take the addiction away from them, they can't search for the drugs, you just took away 75% of their day. What the heck are they going to do now? They have to fill that somehow, right? Well, work's always a good one because faith-based ones are work-related. They have work programs. So when you take that away, the search for drugs was just as exciting to them as finding it. They had to get some money somehow and then run it down. So they'll tell you, if you had these addicts, they'll say that the chase is as much fun as finding it and enjoying it, and then you do it again. So when you take that away, they need something to fill it. Faith is a good thing to fill it with. You got to occupy your time. So I don't have magic answers, but I'm just giving you what I experienced. We did not have very long of a time. From when we found out to when we lost him was about 18 months. So we didn't have a lot of time. There wasn't a Tyler's Light with a web base of treatment options, of where do you go, what do you do. We tried to show up at support groups, and they were Al-Anon then, they were called Al-Anon, and we walked in one time and they were reading out of this big book, and they passed the book around, and I thought, how in the heck is that helping anybody, I want to go somewhere where you can talk. I want to talk to some parents that are living through this too, and so we didn't have enough time. So now I look at parents going, get to a support group, get around parents that have been around this. Some have been there a year, some have been there a month, some have been there 10 years, but you need support from them so you don't know you're crazy. You act like sometimes you're going nuts. So you can help your loved one, whoever that may be. And I know Terry, share her story, is we have a ton now of grandparents raising little ones because that 20, 30-something-year-old parent can't control it. That this epidemic has affected them. So this is an all-hands-on-deck situation. It really is. We have the numbers are so staggering. So whatever your political views are, doesn't matter. A couple things are going on. We have to reach our kids with education, K through 12 programs about this. We have got to slow down the medical industry, if we can, with the amount of prescribing, and they are slowly pulling the opiates away. But still, not every child, not half of a school district should be ADD, ADHD, anxiety, or depression. That's ridiculous. And our president wants to build a wall. Get excited about that. Why? It's a #1 source for these illegal drugs coming to our country. We have to slow that down. With all these 3 pieces, there is no one answer. That will help. Let's give them less, let's educate them, and that's the source. If you have Showtime, there's a 5-part series on there called The Trade. So I watched that and it turned my stomach. But they're interviewing people in Mexico with these opium fields. They're farmers. Hey, I'm just trying to feed my kids. Too bad it's killing yours. That's nice, right? So put the wall up, stop it. There's so many bad things coming in from Mexico. They figure it's a $25 billion industry from that source alone. That's a lot of money. But it's killing a lot of our youth. And you figure right now, if it's 5,000 a year in Ohio and Pennsylvania, places like that, the numbers are staggering. This is the worst epidemic we've ever been through. It's more than car crashes. It is the #1 problem. But if I ask the student body, and they all know, how many kids were killed in that school in Florida? You guys all know, don't you? It's on the news every day. Remember that? How many kids were killed? 17. Every school, they all know it. Why? Social media, it's on the news every day. We're losing 14 a day in Ohio. That's just one day. This is the biggest problem we got. Not, a one child getting a little bit, left of center. Yes, we need help there. School should be a safe environment, but let's talk about this. Let's talk about, slowing this down because it is absolutely ravaging our country. So I'm going to leave this open to you all. Any questions? More of just let's discuss because you could probably help each other out more than I can. We'll just open the floor up. Terry, you're allowed to chime in too. So, anything y'all like to share with each other or me or any trials and tribulations you're going through?
I think a lot of the issues are with families. My husband's a recovered pillhead back here.
A recovering what?
Pillhead. He was I call him pillhead.
A recovering addict.
Yes.
Not a pillhead. His head's made of normal like ours, but...
He was definitely a pillhead. He calls himself that.
Well, but he has a disease.
And it was very genetic for him. He went to a faith-based rehab when she was in utero 8 years ago. It was either that or we were going to get divorced because my husband's dad was also a drug user who died of a drug overdose in 2008. 2010, Jason went to rehab. It affects every family.
Absolutely.
Families just tend to push my family, especially when it comes to my husband, just tried to push it under the rug.
Yeah.
Instead of bringing it to light because they weren't there.
Sure.